Tonight we're going to do a little dish that's called red beans and rice. There's a bunch of different ways to do this, and I actually make it a couple of different ways, so there's no real right or wrong way to do it. I think the main thing you got to have, of course, your red beans, your rice, you got to have some bay leaves in there, and a lot of people like sausage in it or a meat, and that's optional. I like sausage in mine. I think originally red beans and rice was made with pickled pork, which is like a pork shoulder that was pickled, but I've never had it that way. We're going to try it tonight, made with, we got some of these, just beans here, red beans in a bag. This is a good little brand here. You can get down in my area. And also got some sausage here. And this actually, really I like to use andouille, but this is a smoked deer sausage. And I'll tell you, I've got to use some of this deer sausage up. I'll show you the situation I'm dealing with over here. If you're looking, see, I got more than I can deal with sausage in that freezer. So I got to use some of that up. Alright. So we'll go ahead and we'll use that deer sausage tonight. And we're going to use some Trinity in there. And we're going to put some seasoning in there. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. My first step, I've got a cast iron pot down here, and I'm going to go ahead and cook this sausage. Well, the sausage is already fully cooked. I'm going to just saute a little bit to get some of this oil, get some of the fat out of there. Which deer sausage is actually not just deer, it's deer and pork mixed sausage. That's the way they make this. Deer is too lean. See all those little bits, those little white bits, that's that pork fat they got in there. So I got this. I'm going to sit here and saute this for probably about 5 minutes and just cook this sausage down a little bit. Okay, I don't know if you can see in here, but this sausage is starting to let go of a lot of that oil and that grease out of there. It's starting to pop a lot and brown a little bit. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and start taking it out. Just take it out with a slotted spoon here and put it back in this cup. Then I'm going to get my vegetables in there. So I'm going to go ahead and scoop all this sausage out, but I want to leave that oil in there. Now a lot of times at this point, instead of just that sausage, you would put some tasso in there, which is smoked pork. And it's really heavily smoked. It's a fatty, almost like a real heavy smoked bacon. It would give off a lot of grease, or bacon fat would be good to put in there. But all I have here tonight is sausage, so we're going to have to make do with this oil and these fats from this sausage. Alright? Now into this pot, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put some Trinity, which is bell peppers, onions, and celery. It's frozen right here. I happen to have a little bit left in this bag. I'm going to use it first. And I'm going to go ahead to this other bag and add some of it. So that's, so you don't have to use about a 12-ounce bag. So I got about a bag in there, including, the first, that one and then the rest of the last bag. I'm just going to start these down. I'm not going to, brown them really a bunch. I'm just going to saute them and get a sweat going here so I can get all that good stuff off the bottom of the pot. And see how it's just taking up all that oil and that grease from that sausage, and it's just sitting there cooking it. Okay, now this Trinity's cooked down some, and I'll tell you, a lot of recipes don't call for near this much Trinity, but I just like some vegetables in this dish because everything's going to cook down so much. I think it gives it some body and some flavor. So I put a little bit more than it would normally call for. So I'm going to start adding some of my seasonings. I've got thyme, dried thyme. I've got some dried parsley here. I've got some slap your mama. I've got some Old Bay and some salt, and of course 3 bay leaves. Now I've got about a teaspoon or so of each of those. I'm going to add those in there. Stir that around, and now is when you really start to smell all that wonderful, just Creole flavor just smelling all throughout the air. It's just really aromatic when you add that stuff in there. Okay. Now it's really starting to get smelling good, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of a dark or red wine, or a sweet wine actually I used the other night. So I add a little bit of that. Not all that yet. Just get that stirring in there. We're really going to bring it out. You can see it's going to get all these vegetables nice and dark. Looking really, smelling really good. Okay. Now we've done that. Throw that around a little bit. I can go ahead, I can put in my garlic. Now I use plenty of garlic in this recipe. This is probably about 2 to 3 tablespoons. And the reason I use so much is because, like I said, I normally use that andouille sausage. The andouille has a lot of garlic in it. So I'm going to make up for some of that. I'm going to put a little extra garlic in right now. But you don't put your garlic in until after you put some of the, that wine in, let these vegetables cook down, because you don't want it to burn. They get bitter. Okay? I have about a tablespoon of Lea & Perrins, probably about a teaspoon, and a few drops of liquid smoke. And you might ask, why would you put liquid smoke in this deal? And again, we're going back to that really smoky andouille flavor I like to have in here. That we don't have that andouille, so I'm putting a little bit of that liquid smoke. Although this sausage is smoked that I've got, it's not nearly as smoked as much as andouille is. Okay? Now we've got that going, and we're still on about a medium-high heat. I'm going to go ahead and put this sausage back in there. Okay? Sausage rolling around. Now, it's about time we're going to start adding some liquid. I've got about 8 to 10 cups of liquid. And I don't really like to just put water in any of my dishes. I believe stock or broth is so much better. So what I did about a 50-50 mixture of about 5 cups of chicken broth to about 5 cups of water. I've got this over here in this other pot that was just heating. And I'm just going to go ahead and start adding this a little bit by a little bit. And about just half of it right there. Get that all stirred around. Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get my beans. Now I did rinse these beans off and pick through them. But, a lot of people say, oh, you got to soak these red beans overnight. Well, no, not necessarily. What you're doing there is you're getting some of that starch to go ahead and release out of the beans. You can wash that away so things won't be so starchy. Let's say you're just having the beans by themselves and you want them all to clump together or be too thick. But with this dish, you really do want that starch out of the beans to make this, thicken up this broth and to thicken up this juice. So you do want that. So you don't cook them overnight. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in there. Now it's just a pound of red beans. Dry red beans rinsed. Okay. Get those stirred in. And I'm going to pour in the rest of this broth. Hope we have enough room in here. Yeah, just about. Just there. Okay, so I got this broth in there. I got these red beans. I got this trini. What I'm going to do, I'm going to leave it about a medium-high heat. I'm going to bring this right to a boil, and I'm going to cut it down to low simmer, and I'm going to put that top back on there. Okay, as you can see, these beans are just starting to boil here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my heat back from high to about medium-low. I'm going to cover them. And I'm going to set this, the way this was cast iron, it holds heat so good, I'm going to have to set it off this burner, because I'm using an electric stove, and let this burner cool down, and let that sit over there covered for a few minutes. And I'll move this back, and I'm going to let it sit over there, I'm going to let it simmer, or with a light boil, for probably about 2 hours, or at least an hour and 45 minutes. So I'll come back to you once I get them simmering right over there. Okay, see how we got them going now? We got them at this little light boil, this simmer. That's how we want them. And I've just opened them up and stirred them for a few minutes. Now I'll cover it back up and come back and check them. But if you'll notice, these beans look like they kind of shrivel up right now. Don't worry about that. That's that air coming out of them beans. And what's going to happen is all this water and this juice here in about an hour is going to start coming back into those beans. And they're going to blow up real big. So, not real big, about the same size. So, don't worry if you see them look like they're shriveling up. That's just the way they do once they start getting hot. So, just sit here, let them do this for about at least an hour and a half, and come back and check them every about 10 to 15 minutes. Give them a stir. Okay. We've been cooking an hour and 20 minutes now. You can see these beans aren't so shriveled up anymore. They're starting to puff back up a little bit. But I taste them. And they're still, they're not quite even al dente yet. They still got some chew to them. So, it's going to have a while longer to cook, but that's fine. You know, I'm not in any big hurry on this dish. I haven't been cooking it. Normally it says you cook it kind of like a little rolling boil, not a rolling boil, but a mild boil for an hour and a half, 2 hours. But you know, that was just what it said on the recipe of the beans. That's what I go by kind of to see how long it might take. But obviously it's going to take a little longer than that. I'm going a little bit slower. All I'm going to do is add more flavor. So I'm going to go ahead and close it back up and keep it here on low. Turn up just a little bit to about medium low. And I'm going to let it go another 25 minutes and check it. Yeah, I'm going to check it about every 25 minutes. It may have to go another hour and a half. I don't know yet, but we'll know just by, you know, tasting it and letting it go. But it tastes real, real good. It's just got to get that right texture of those beans. Alright, so I've let them go another 30 minutes now. So it's been a total of 2 hours cooking time. You'll see these beans are starting to get a little bit big and they're starting to bust, starting to soften up. So, well, I think I need to let them at least go another 30 more minutes. Because I want this to thicken up a little bit. I want those beans to get really, really soft. And I'm going to start thinking about, after that amount of time, do I want to go ahead and let it cool and try to thicken up? Because this is one of the best dishes you can eat the next day. Or do I want to try to add a roux or somehow to thicken it up a little bit myself? I'm going to go ahead and let it cook low and slow like this for another 30 more minutes. And we'll come back and check it. Okay, now that we've gone this last 30 minutes, go ahead and uncover the pot. And it looks really good. Everything looks nice and tender. And I tasted the beans, they're really good. I'm gonna still got a little bit liquid, more liquid in there than I want. Aside, I'm not going to try to thicken this liquid. I still want just to be the beans that thicken it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn up just a little bit. I'm going to let it sit here for a little while. I'm going to let some of this water evaporate. Then I'm going to get in there with potato mash and I'm going to mash this up just a little bit. And it's going to come out just perfect, I believe. Okay, so I've had it cooking for about 10 more minutes. And you see the water's cooking down a little bit. All that sauce is starting to stick off the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take my old potato masher here. And I'm going to mash a couple places. Not all over, but just... I'll just do it. Yeah, kind of like that. And this will kind of get these beans, some of them, to release a lot of that starch out. I'll really start thickening this sauce up. But, you know, once I do take it off the heat, I guarantee you by tomorrow this will be just thick, 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 thick. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm finished cooking it here for tonight. I'm going to pour it into another pot or another container. I'm going to let it cool for a little bit. And we'll go ahead and we'll have this tomorrow. It'll be really, really good with some long grain rice. Alright, now, got me some rice here. And I've got, you know, like I said, I went ahead and got that red beans and the sauce and heated it up out of this pot. And this other pot over here. And go ahead and serve some up. It ought to be really good. But I tasted this juice and everything, and it's just perfect. It's really nice. So we got some red beans and rice, we got sausage, everything in here, and it's just a perfect little meal, especially on a cool night like tonight.